Oh, this is awkward. When I pressed record, I didn't realise I had my dressing gown on still. So, Warriors. This is going to be cool. So, this is going to be everything you need to know about tanking as a protection warrior in TBC. You're going to get sick of me plugging this, but if you are a member of the channel, you get to see the full unedited version, which is 2 hours, 40 minutes. So, yeah, quite long, but a lot more in-depth, a lot more banter, a lot more AFKing away from the screen as well. But a big thank you to Warrior TSW for educating us, teaching you how to play a warrior, and there's so many little hidden gems in here, and there might even be more in the unedited version, so why not join the channel? Make sure you give Warrior TSW a follow over on Twitch and subscribe to him over on YouTube, and obviously subscribe to this channel. Let's get into it. So, like, why should people listen to you? Like, why are you a good person to take this knowledge from?
Well, I've played Protection Warrior since TBC Retail, and although I may have had like a year-long break or so, since then it's basically been every week or so I've at least done a raid or two of WoW since then. So when it comes to things like muscle memory or thinking about the game, it's always through the lens of a warrior and a protection warrior at that. So yeah, I mean, I've played a lot of warrior. It's like if you're a pilot and you're clocking flight hours and you need a certain amount to be promoted or whatever, like the amount of hours that I've logged as a prop warrior is like embarrassingly high, I think, even compared to other people who play prop warrior, particularly when it comes to TBC. Like, I've played TBC for, I don't know, near 7 years, like, as my focus, if you like. Classic took a bit of attention away from TBC, but it's mostly TBC.
We'll crack straight on with the talents. So we'll talk through if there's more than one sort of tanking spec, or if tanking specs change through the tiers or whatever. Obviously, if you want to go through multiple builds, we can, but just I'll put it on screen and we'll have a little run through what each choice of talent and why you take it, basically.
Yeah, so first of all, wearing a shield will be a thing in TBC. Straight off the bat, people are asking, are you going to be dual wielding tanking in TBC? And the answer is almost certainly not. And I sincerely hope not. So we will be going for a full, deep protection build. First of all, anticipation is the first one you want to take on the far right. So that just gives you 20 defense. It's not 20 defense rating, it's 20 defense. So if you want to be crit immune just by defense, you need 490 defense. You can be 470. So for example, you're leveling as DPS and you're getting quest gear, and you can just put on all your defense gear, and you can see on your character sheet under the defense drop down, you've got 470 defense. Well, add 20. If you're leveling as DPS, you've got 470 with all your tank gear on. Add this 20 defense. Again, it's not defense rating, it's pure defense. So that'll give you 490, which will get you uncrittable from level 73 boss mobs. So that's nice. So that's all it is. It just gives you extra defense skill. And defense gives you increased chance for the enemy to miss you, which is a big thing. You can increase the enemy's chance to miss, which is something that a lot of people don't know that defense does. It also increases your chance to block, dodge, and parry.
Just a quick one. When we was doing this, it was mentioned on the stream about the amount of times TSW said the word parry. So we'll put a counter on screen and let's add it up together. So just, I know this may seem really basic, but so you get this extra 20 defense skill. Does it show when you look at your character stats?
Yes, it does. But if you, for whatever reason, were thinking about your tank gear without the protection spec, you can just add that 20 on and know that you're crit immune if you're aiming for 490.
Yep, makes sense. Okay.
And the other options quickly are just improved blood rage, which is minimal. You don't really benefit too much, and it's hard to take. Like, improved blood rage would be fine, but it would never be more than fine. And for the 2 talent points, it's you basically can't take it. And tactical mastery has been moved from the arms tree in classic to the protection tree in TBC. Now, this is more of a PvP talent. You'll see lots of arms warriors PvPing with this. But in TBC, you get an additional passive ability called stance mastery, which means that you save 10 rage every time you change stance. Now, one thing that people hate in classic is if you're playing a tank warrior, you can't get your tactical mastery talent because it's in the arms tree. And as a Prot Fury, the name kind of gives it away. Your protection and Fury spect, not arms. So the really annoying thing for Prot Fury classic warriors is if you want to mocking blow something, you have to go into your battle stance, which wipes your rage completely. And if you don't have blood rage to give you that nice 10 rage straight away, you have to wait until you start melee attacking or getting hit from a target, but generally you won't be getting hit if you're wanting to mocking blow something to hit you. So that can be really awkward and clunky. The same for intercept. You can't be in defensive stance and want to intercept something because you'll lose all of your rage going to berserker stance. Having the TBC passive ability stance mastery, again, it will never drop you down more than 10 rage when you're changing stance, so you can always intercept and you can always mocking blow. Both of those spells are 10 rage, so that's really nice. So again, like tactical mastery is not as big as it is in classic because you have that passive ability stance mastery that just means you save 10 rage.
Tactical mastery, interesting though, or what maybe not interesting, maybe more worrying, is the actual second part of tactical mastery. So increases your threat with bloodthirst and mortal strike when in defensive stance, as if almost you would be using that for threat.
Yeah, I mean, it is a possibility to go that route, but I don't think it's going to be used. If you were to be like a hybrid tank, like a second tank, for example, if you were DPS the majority of the time, but if there were certain fights like Fathom Lord Kerithres, I think is the name, in SSC, you require more tanks for that fight specifically. And if you're not wanting to take a mage portal or hearth out and respec, you could go a hybrid build. It's only 3 talent points. It's something you could do. But then again, if you're a tank 3 or a tank 4 in a raid, you're very rarely going to be tanking something that is going to be marked skull and nuked by the raid. So it's not that big of a deal because you could literally just bash Sunder Armor every global and shield block. Just don't die and do something, and then by the time it's the raid's turn to kill your target, you've been attacking it for 40 seconds or something, and you'll do enough threat to keep it on you.
All right, so we've got 5 points in anticipation. Where are we going next?
Then toughness is, well, it depends. Well, I'd go toughness. 5 out of 5, increase your armor value by 10%. So
Yep.
It's a really easy talent, very, very valuable points there. We can talk about armor later on, but armor is a very valuable stat that a lot of people, again, don't identify as being that important, but it really is.
Okay, so where are we going next? I'm shield
specialization. Shield specialization. It's a very good ability, and then directly, so it just increases your chance to block, and the first point gives you 1 rage when a block occurs. But you need all 5. Like, you would never go 5 out of 5, and I think there's a similar talent in Classic that you only ever go for the first point, but you're forced to go 5 out of 5 because the improved shield block is a absolute must-have. So in TBC, there's a 15% chance for bosses to crush you, and as long as you the mob either misses, the attack gets dodge, block, parried. If it's none of those things, there's a 15% chance on the combat table for the mob to crush you, and a crush is additional damage from the boss, and if you're going to die from anything and you're crit immune, it's going to be the crush. So it's really, like, as big as it is to remove the crit, it's as much of a concern to move the crush off. And by having the extra stack, I suppose you call it a shield block. So when you press a shield block, you have one charge, if you like, to increase your block chance by 75%, and this talent increases the duration and also gives you a second stack of shield block, so you can block 2 attacks in 6 seconds guaranteed, where you're not going to get crushed. The issue is if the mob is attacking particularly quickly, or if there's parry haste, or if the mob does 2 melee swings and a cleave woven in, or some other ability, and you do 2 blocks, you've got to wait for the 6-second cooldown on shield block to refresh shield block with improved shield block. So that's when you can be susceptible to the crushers. What you can do is have like a weak aura or something that shows you when your shield block is not buffed on you. So that's when you are susceptible to the crush. So that's when you're most likely to die. Also, talking about parry haste, particularly mobs in Scottejaye, where you've got NPCs helping you kill bosses. You might have 20 mobs helping you to kill a boss, and they're all just auto-attacking. It's critical that those mobs are stood behind the target. Not only will they do more damage because they can't get parried from behind, they also stop parry haste. And if we're going to get into parry haste, basically, in simplest terms, parry haste is when a mob is coming to strike you with their main hand. If you attack them and they parry you with their weapon, depending on how close their swing timer is to completion, it can increase their attack speed. But if they're going to attack soon and they parry, they'll attack sooner. Like if they're close to the attack, they'll attack sooner. But if they've just attacked, it will remain the same. Like they won't do like a double attack. People get confused between a thrash mechanic and a parry haste mechanic. Now, like most bosses and mobs will do parry haste. It's like you can probably count it on one hand the amount of bosses that don't have parry haste, or it might be like 3 even. But the thrash is when a boss literally has like a Wind Fury, or like a Wind Fury plus an extra attack. There are bosses that will attack 3 times, or mobs that attack 3 times, and people seem to think this is parry haste. It's not parry haste, it's just their mechanic of hitting 3 times. And they think, oh, I got hit 3 times. That's parry haste, where it's like, no, it's not parry haste.
We've got shield block. Where are we going from here?
Well, now you've got an option. It's a case of, are you struggling to stay alive, or do you want to do more threat? Generally, you want to do more threat if you're leveling. I don't know why you'd level as protection. I don't recommend it. But yeah, defiance is like the absolute must-have. If you want to tank, this talent is required. So it increases your threat by 15%, which is big, and it also increases your expertise whilst in defensive stance by 6, which is pretty big as well. So this isn't expertise rating, this is straight up expertise. So you'll see it on your character sheet as being 6 expertise, which is nice. And what each point of expertise does is reduces your target's chance to dodge and parry by 0.25. So straight away, this talent gives you an extra 1.5. So that's like 3% more chance for your abilities to connect with the target. So the expertise element is big, and the just the threat 15% multiplier is big as well.
Yep, sounds good. So where are we going next then?
Last Stand is a massive talent. Last Stand is really, really good. What I would say is, like, if you're speedrunning Classic, or to a smaller extent, playing TBC normally, you can really swap out like your gear set if you do or don't have Last Stand available. Like you can feel relatively safe knowing that you've got Last Stand available to you. For example, if you're using like life-giving gem or other defensive trinkets or survivability like on use trinkets, and you dip to like 20% HP or 40% HP, if you're one swing away from being killed and you don't think your healers are going to heal you, Last Stand saves your life. Yep. So if I were forced to be like leveling, tanking a raid dungeon for some reason, like my priority would be to go for improved Sunder Armor. So this, you can get 3 out of 3 here pretty easily. It just reduces the rage cost of your Sunder Armor and Devastate. We've not yet got to Devastate. Yeah, it's great. Sunder Armor and Devastate are 15. Excuse me, I'm going to hiccup or burp. Sorry. You can edit that bit out.
No, that's staying in.
So it's a Devastate and Sunder Armor 15 rage, and this reduces it to, obviously, let me think. Hold on, calculator. 12 rage. So yeah, you're going to be spamming Sunder Armor or Devastate a lot. There's nothing else. You've got some options here, like improved Disarm can be really good, but there are so few bosses that actually can be disarmed. It's practically worthless. However, I must say that when you do disarm a target, you take a considerable amount less damage. It's like between 50% and 75% like reduced damage for the duration of the disarm debuff. So anything that can be disarmed, you can use your disarm as a defensive ability. You know, for example, you don't have to rely on shields on last stand or shield wall. You can just throw in a disarm. It's very useful. For example, Morose in Kara is disarmable. So if you were like, you wouldn't respec for 3 points in improved disarm for Morose, but when Morose does his soft enrage, is it 20%? You can just disarm him and then just, you know, ease the healing a little bit on you. Okay, so improved taunt. You basically, after you get concussion blow, which is the talent we'll go over next probably, you have 1 extra talent point to spend in this area. So again, improved disarm isn't that strong. We can kind of forget about it. You've got the option for improved taunt, which you might think is, what? It just reduces the cooldown of taunt by 1 second. So taunt has a 10-second cooldown. So reducing it to 9 seconds that's not important. But in actuality, if you're doing any kind of 5-mounts or even trash, you can often be running around after a mob and you're spamming taunt as it's coming off cooldown. It gives you just extra leeway of getting the target. Let's say on the pull, you're tanking Skull and Cross. You get Skull MD to you, cool, and you're attacking a little bit on Cross, and you taunt Cross back to you, that's fine. You go back to Skull, and then Cross again gets pulled off you. You know, it's almost impossible for a mob to be pulled off you from aggro immediately after a taunt. Someone's got to be like Shadow Bolt the wrong target if they're pulling it off you after you've already taunted it once. So there will almost certainly be a bit of time between the first taunt and the aggro pull from that target. You know, in a average SSC raid, tier 5 raid, you could probably save 1 or, you know, maybe 1 death on average, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the other alternative talents we have to pick from aren't a lot either. Can we just get 1 point in improved taunt, please? Yeah. So improved shield wall, there are 2 points. The first point is worth more than the second. The first point is 3 seconds. The second point is 2 seconds. If you aren't going for improved taunt, like you're confident, or you just let the DPS die if they pull aggro, you can go for 1 point in improved shield wall instead. Shield wall is an extremely strong ability, reducing your damage taken from all sources by 75%. You are basically immune to death during a shield wall, as long as you have the very basic healing on you, like a single, like an off-spec, like a rep paladin could keep you up for the duration of shield wall, as long as they're casting like a holy light on you or something. The amount of damage reduction is massive. Okay, so spec the 1 point out of shield wall, please.
Yep.
Unless it's an enrage, you know, improved shield wall isn't that big. Whereas if you want to speed up raids and not have people die, the improved taunt can be life-saving. So we've got improved shield bash underneath. So this is a really good talent. I would love to spec it, but you really like you're more often taunting mobs than you are shield bashing them. But I love improved shield bash, although I never take it. Okay, so concussion blow is the next talent point, which please get, thank you. So concussion blow is really good for 5-mans. You definitely want to be using it. It's not as strong as the Paladin Hammer of Justice. Hammer of Justice stuns for a little bit longer, but you really need to be using it. You can use it as a defensive ability in a 5-man. If you're dying, give them a little stun. It stops all damage from that target. PogChamp, lovely. You can also use it aggressively, like if a mob is running away, you can give them a little stun. Again, I think it's a spell that is undervalued and underused by tanks. I don't see enough of them using it. Also, if you're just running through a heroic dungeon, you can just concussion blow it, go into battle stance, hamstring it, go into defensive stance, and start pulling the next pack. While this slow mob is slowly walking with a hamstring on you, you've just chained 2 pulls together without standing stationary, killing 1 pack, finishing that pack, then walking out of combat to the next pack. You can chain things along and make the run smoother. and keep the flow. Let's go on the left-hand side for shield mastery. So I see people not speccing 3 out of 3 shield mastery, and it blows my mind. Let's have some more hand animations. So 3 out of 3 increases the amount of damage absorbed by your shield by 10%. That's great. Let's say you've got 100 shield value. How numbers work, you've now got 130 shield block value. So if a mob attacks you, you block the amount equal to your shield block value. So it's just damage that that isn't received by you. The thing that is missed on this tooltip is this also increases the damage of your shield slam. So it only says the absorbed amount of your shield, but it also what shield slam does is it attacks with your shield, and it's increased by every point of shield block value to damage of your shield slam. So more block value, the more shield slam damage. And this 30% absorb on your shield also adds to the shield value for the offensive damage on a shield slam. So it works twofold, so it's really nice.
One-handed specialization, I think he was going to talk about next.
Yeah, exactly. So contrary to some people's belief, a shield slam, which comes from your shield in your offhand, is actually considered a main hand ability. So one-handed weapon specialization is every weapon attack, obviously, and your shield slam. So this is kind of like a requirement, if you like. Okay, so 2 points to progress. So you would always go for 2. If you're like a big main tank and you have plenty of rage, so that's your resource to do your abilities. If you keep the flow with rage and you're able to spam your spells and do enough threat, 2 can be enough. But if you're like in a top end guild where people are really pumping hard, you may choose to go further than 2. But leave it at 2 at the moment, because in a priority sense, you want to progress further down the tree before you spec more. So go into Shield Slam now, please. Shield Slam is kind of like your main threat ability. It's the biggest threat spell in the game, basically. So it's a big threat spell, yeah? Big threat. And like I said earlier on the other talent absorbing, like shield specialization, increasing your shield block value, Shield Slam damage is increased by your shield block value. So the next spell that I really like is Improved Defensive Stance, which 3 out of 3 reduces spell damage taken by 6%. So this is good because, fuck druids, because they're going to take my raid spot. But also, they don't have anything against the magic damage, right? Whereas we've got 6% from talents, which is nice. If you're tanking anything that deals spell damage, you should be using this talent. You're a tank first and foremost. You need to survive first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
So the third one is Focused Rage, which reduces the rage cost of all offensive abilities by 1. So this is your Shield Slam, your Devastate, Heroic Strike, Revenge, all of that good stuff. So go 3 of 3, please.
Yeah.
So this is just a really good talent to just ensure that you're not getting rage starved. There's nothing worse than, you've got a full rage bar, you're spamming Heroic Strike and you're doing your whole rotation and it's all going nicely. You spam Heroic Strike 1 too many times and all of a sudden you've got an empty rage bar and Shield Slam is available. You can't use Shield Slam because you don't have enough rage. Focus Rage just means that when you're spamming your abilities, obviously your rage bar goes down that little bit more slowly, and it means that you're able to squeeze in more abilities before you hit 0 rage. Okay, going on to Vitality. 5 of 5, please. I feel like I'm on countdown. Can I get a 5 of 5 Vitality, please?
5 of 5.
So, as you can see from the tooltip, increases total stamina by 5%. Pretty good. It's a Tauren racial in a talent. And on top of that, 10% extra total strength, which is really good. So it makes you so much tankier. It's 5% free health, and the strength component isn't, I don't do it for the strength component, although it's free strength on top of that. So 5% stamina is big. Oh, good call. So Devastate. This is your buffed Sundrama. basically, as soon as you have Devastate, you throw Sunder Armor in the bin. Never use Sunder Armor again once you have Devastate. It's better in every single way. In retail TBC, there were times when you would want to still use Sunder Armor, but let's, for argument's sake, we're talking, final patch of TBC where it's better in all cases. So again, it's another weapon that has another talent that has a bit of scaling. So it's 50% of your weapon damage. So the better your main hand weapon, the better 50% of that is. So it continues to get better as your gear gets better. So all it does is it does the Sunder Armor effect. Lovely. It reduces the armor of the target. Nice. And it also has this 50% weapon damage component, as well as a little bit of extra damage per application of Sunder. And like Sunder, it just goes up to 5 times. So it's Sunder plus 50% weapon damage, plus a little bit of damage, plus a little bit of extra threat as well. There's no reason to ever use Sunder. Let's go to the parry talent called Deflection, please. Okay, so this is just obviously just 5 parry. It's really nice. And it, well, most of all, it means that we can get into improved Thunderclap. So on the next tier, improved Thunderclap, one person in the raid needs to have improved Thunderclap. And it can be an arms warrior if you want to force them into battle stance once in a while. And it can be a even smaller chance is a fury warrior. But really, if you have a tank warrior, they should be able to keep Thunderclap up all the time as well. So basically, this increases the slow by 10%. So it's 20% total, which does not stack with Thunder Fury debuff. So this slow of the enemy's swing, improved Thunderclap is the top tier talent and will replace anything else like Thunder Fury debuff. And it reduces the rage a bit and increases the damage, which is nice. Like if you're doing, like, you need improved Thunderclap if you're doing 5 mans. It makes it so much smoother. Cruelty in Fury, spice it up. So 5 of 5 in Cruelty. So this is just a nice 5% crit damage. Crit damage, obviously, increase your crit chance, and it gives you a good amount of threat from the extra, doubling your damage. As a warrior, when you deal damage, it's 200% damage versus a normal hit. And then after this, we go back into the defensive tree and we spec 5/5 one-handed weapon specialization. Well, actually, bring those 3 points back out. This is like the skeleton build, or whatever you want to call it. Again, you could have the 1 point out of improved taunt and into shield wall spec if you want. But this is kind of like the skeleton build. So this is like the baseline. Also, if you don't think that you're going to be taking any spell damage, you could take 3 points out of improved defensive stance, which is the 3rd from the bottom. Yeah, wow, you know it, Scott. That's good. Wow. You've been listening.
Yeah, it's only you're teaching me, mate. You're teaching me. Yeah. But to get one more out, I need to.
Yeah,
put one
you can't take it all
else,
out.
So.
Yeah. That looks okay. Like this build would be fine. And then you have your spare talent points to put where you like. And generally, I'd put the 3 in improved defensive stance that you took them out of.
Yeah. I was going to say, let me get it back to what you consider the sort of bare bones.
Yeah.
Spec,
so it's that.
Which I believe it was that. Yeah. So this is what we're saying. Everybody should take a prot warrior in TBC. You should have this as
approximately
a minimum.
Yes.
And now we've got points. How many points? I've got it
7.
In. So we've got 5. We've got 5.
5. Okay.
So we've got 5 now, which are sort of what we'd consider flex talents, if you like.
I mean, yeah, you've got a few more in there baked in, but yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
So next bit, fairly straightforward this, and I don't think it's going to take particularly long. And I don't even think you're going to need me to show anything on screen, hopefully. So just new abilities. Just talk us through the new abilities that warriors get in TBC.
Okay, so you get Commanding Shout, which, like Battle Shout, instead of giving you attack power, it gives you HP. It's as easy to apply as Battle Shout. It just requires 10 rage. You can only do 1 shout at a time per warrior. So big brain, classic TBC, you're going to see warriors swapping groups to buff Battle Shout to everybody who benefits from the Battle Shout. Likewise, you'll see warriors being swapped into raid groups to buff commanding shout. Say for example you're on a boss that does some sort of AoE, or anything that HP is required, you're going to see a warrior in group 1 commanding shout, move to group 2 commanding shout, group 3 commanding shout, and so on, just because there's no reason not to, and it's the kind of like min-max culture that we're in. Victory Rush.
It's the gimped version of Victory Rush, though, isn't it? It's not the good Victory Rush. It's just Victory Rush. I wouldn't even call it Victory. I'd just call it Rush.
Which expansion did you get the good one?
Wrath, isn't it? When you get the hill as well. That's when it gets good.
But yeah, it's basically just used for solo content or leveling. I think it's level 65 or 4. You get it. Don't use it on cooldown, but use it before it fades. And the damage isn't amazing, but it's something, and it's free damage, so make sure you're using it. Intervene. This is a pretty significant ability. It's mostly just for maneuverability. Basically, the tooltip says you run at high speed towards a party member, intercepting the next melee or ranged attack made on them. So it's a charge, but instead of it going to a enemy, it goes to a friendly. This can be done in combat or out of combat. It costs 10 rage. It has the standard charge range, 8 to 25 yards. So you can't intercept someone who's right next to you. They have to be a little bit away from you, 8 yards to start the charge. Again, up to the 25 yards max range. It's good in PvP. For example, if your twos partner or whoever, you're predicting that they're going to be sapped, like things like people have already started being attacked, the enemy rogue hasn't sapped your healer, you can intervene your healer and intercept the sap. So spell flexion, let's go over that. So it's a 25 rage ability that you reflect the next spell cast on you for the next 5 seconds. So in PvP, mages, it's really nice if you can reflect a polymorph or frostbolt or something. But they're just, if good mages or even average mages, even they'll just ice lance and eat the reflect. So that won't do much in PvP. But you can, what I tend to do in low ranked arena is you just put the sword and shield on, and sometimes they will just not cast on you. You don't necessarily always have to use the spell reflect, because anything they cast gives you time to get the spell reflection spell up. So as long as you have a sword and a shield on, obviously you're not being aggressive with a sword and a shield on in arena, but you can just stand there and be like, yo, as soon as you cast something, I can just reflect it. They'll just spam ice lances on you, but they're not hard casting into you. In terms of tanking, spell reflect is good. It costs quite a lot of rage though. It'd be nice if as a tank you could do something to reduce its rage cost. It costs 25 rage. It has a 10-second cooldown, so the cooldown isn't too bad. There are certain spells that you definitely do want to reflect. Again, on any kind of PTR or beta testing, you just try and spell reflect everything and write it down or build a mental log as to what is spell reflectable. What also annoys me is the lack of damage. Some bosses or mobs or trash, they'll be hitting you for hard hitting damage, and then when you're reflecting it does hardly any damage, and you're like, yo, if you hit me really hard, I want to reflect it and hit you really hard, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So this one probably will be quite short because I don't think there's going to be that many, but key add-ons. So what must-have add-ons as a prot warrior? So weak auras, hey, we got it out of the way. So weak auras number 1. Yeah, it's just making sure that the boss has improved demo shout on, making sure that any debuff or buff is active. Like we said earlier, having the audio cues of being low HP or abilities available. Let's say, for example, you don't like looking at when shield slam's available, or if you're doing 5-man content and you don't like looking at, when thunderclap's available, you can just have something else that just makes a little icon or a noise or something when, you want to do something else. Like, it just reminds you, and it's handy and very customizable. And they've got a really nice library. You search for what you want, you cross your fingers, and hopefully someone's uploaded their recore that they made that suits your needs. So these are in some sort of order, like unit frames, player frames. I am a big fan of having really nice, clear unit frames. As a warrior, your health bar is very important, and your rage bar is very important. You need these to be. You need to know what these are at a moment's notice. If you're low HP, that's a problem. You need to react. If you're low rage, you need to react. If you're full rage, you need to react. If you're half rage, you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So all the time, it's a very reactionary role to play. You're doing your global cooldowns, and hopefully you have enough rage for that. And then if you have lots of rage, you're adding heroic strikes. If you are rage starved, you're stopping heroic strikes. And you can deal a lot of threat by spamming heroic strike, but the moment you rage starve yourself and you cannot do your standard shield slam, revenge, devastate rotation, you're really falling behind. Like, your threat is just dropping off into the abyss. Like, it's really important that you don't over heroic strike to rage starve yourself. Unit frames, and also you want to be seeing incoming heals as well. It's very important. For example, on your unit frame, if you're half HP and you've got a healing highlight add-on where you can see that, like, most of the time it's like a green bar that you can see that there's a calculated average heal incoming that's going to fill you back up to full, you're relatively safe. But if you're half HP and you see no green bar, there is no cast heal targeted on you, that's a problem. You need to be thinking about staying alive. Maybe use a small cooldown, or you call for heals, and people can react that way. Damage meter is very important, like details in classic, or DPS mate on TBC client, or recount if you want to go for a retail old school version. Damage is nice. It can show you what's going on. Damage taken as a tank is really nice to see what's going on and what abilities are hitting you for the most. Like, if there's demo shout falling off, like if the boss is attacking you harder than expected. For example, if the boss normally hits you for 9k and then he hit you once for 14k, why is that? Is that because somebody didn't do their job properly? Probably because demo shout faded. Let's double check and talk to the arms warrior or whoever is supposed to be keeping that debuff on the boss. More add-ons, item rack, or something that manages your items, your gear. Again, another reason why I love to play warrior is because you can change your talents based on playstyle. You can use your cooldowns when you want. It's all up to you. Unlike a DPS, like a warrior, you're using them for execute phase or when you need to push damage. As a warrior, you're in control of that. And again, it's the same with gear. If you think you're safe and staying alive, you can put on the threat gear and have an easier time holding aggro. Or you can go for a bit more avoidance, use some different trinkets. What I used to do on Lady Vash progress was use Morose's Lucky Pocket Watch, because I wouldn't always have Shield Wall, because it's a 30-minute cooldown. You don't always have it available. So when Enrage happens, I pop Morose's Lucky Pocket Watch. I get 16% more dodge. Enrage happens, and then I'm Neo from the Matrix. I'm just dodging every attack from an enraged Lady Vash, and again, you're extending that enrage timer. More add-ons, boss mods, obviously deadly boss mods or big wigs or something. It's critical to know ahead of time what is happening, when phases are happening, and to react to them. Obviously, a threat meter is critical. DPS, you might want to get this one. Apparently, 99% of players aren't using a DPS, aren't using a threat meter. On the pull in particular, you can't just go ham on the boss. You need to wait for the tank to get some aggro, particularly if the tank is using their throwing weapon or something. The tank did 200 damage on a throwing weapon to the boss, and you're casting a shadow bolt that's going to hit for 4k. Who do you think is going to be hit by? Where do you think the boss is going to be running? Okay, More add-ons, scrolling combat text. It's really good to know what damage you're taking. I get a little bit annoyed when I see tanks and they just have either no scrolling combat text, like they can't tell what numbers they're being hit for. Like it's really obvious if you are getting hit for 14,000 or 9,000. Something's wrong if you're getting hit for 14,000, and you need to identify that straight away. Additionally, if you are using a scrolling combat text add-on that shows the icon of the spell that you're being hit by, so if it's like a consecration spell, you can move out of it straight away and not just think it's just another spell that you don't need to worry about. Debuff frame, so get something that moves your debuffs. I hate it when I see people with their debuffs in the top right hand corner of their screen. It literally can't be further away from your field of view. Just put it near the middle of your screen and you'll always be able to tell the moment you get any kind of debuff what kind of debuff it is and if you need to react to it. Rating buster in TBC, you don't have percentages like 1% hit. You get 30 hit rating. So rating buster is an add-on that just gives you the conversion of rating to a percentage. So if you know you want 6% hit, you can just add 6% hit worth of gear, because it updates the tooltip to show you both the rating as well as the percentage. Bind pad is an add-on I first started using on a druid. Just when you run out of action bars and keybinds, you can just add macros separate to your macro interface in the game. You can just make more macros and assign keybinds to them. You can't drag the spells onto the bar, so it's stuff that you don't care about the cooldown. For example, I've got my cleave in bind pad, so I just do /cast cleave, give it a keybind, and then I don't need to have it anywhere on my interface. It just happens behind the scenes. I just press the cooldown, the hotkey, and the macro is executed. This is an add-on I use in classic aggro highlight. So this just highlights on the raid frames when someone has aggro. It's great if you're a healer. You can pre-cast on someone who has aggro who hasn't taken damage yet, as well as just be mindful of, if someone's pulled aggro, like if you see a rogue and they've got, like, say you're in a 5-man and you haven't identified that someone's being attacked, you can see that someone has aggro of something. I mean, I've got like 100 other ones, but
no, quick. No, I'm glad you're done. I thought we was going to start talking about Sexy Map and Atlas Loop, but
yeah, we need the cosmetic add-on, the top one. Edit
the
it
ones
in
that
post.
matter.
Get a Sexy Map.
All right. So we've only got about 2 hours worth of content left. Right, let's go. So professions. What are the best professions for a prop warrior and why?
Number 1 is going to be engineering, because you don't get access to better trinkets until much later in the game. Patch 2.1, when Black Temple launches, is when you get access to the Darkmoon Fair cards, which are 51 stamina. But until then, your best bet is the engineering trinkets, which is 45 stamina. Also, the Darkmoon Fair trinkets are going to be frightfully expensive. Make sure, ideally you're a goblin engineer, so then you can get so there are 2 trinkets, one for gnomish that does like a CC effect, and one for goblin which does a rocket launch effect. So the rocket launch is possibly the largest range attack in the game for distance. So it's like 45 yards or something. You can rocket launch from like the other side of the boss room almost. It feels like it, at least. Yeah. Blacksmithing is going to be your next profession for min-maxing, because you can get a chest piece which is the same item level as tier 6 chest. The first raid you do tier 5 if you're a blacksmith, which is just so powerful that early in the game. It has an on-use as well for extra HP. It has no defensive stats, but it has big armor, big defense, and 3 gem slots to add even more stamina. And it's a guaranteed drop. Like, all it takes is 2 vortex crystals, nether vortex, from the from the tier 5 trash, and you can just say, as the tank or the main tank, the first 2 that drop. And if you're spending a raid evening, you're going to get more than 2 drop. You're going to get, best in slot chest until tier 6, arguably.
I assume we're talking about Bulwark of Ancient Kings.
Exactly, thank you. I forgot the name. Thank you. I'm not currently blacksmith. Well, I am blacksmith, but I may have been a weaponsmith, hammersmith on this warrior, not armorsmith. But yeah, you have to be armorsmith for it. So, if you have enough gold to get you the mats for engineering and blacksmithing. You know, maybe go into TBC with engineering and blacksmithing already set up. But yeah, you probably don't want like the best is engineering, then blacksmithing. So maybe do your initial raiding as engineer, but then as soon as you've got extra time, drop mining for blacksmithing.
Okay, cool. So next we're going to go... you're going to go over stat prio.
Armor and stamina are the stats that stop you from dying. Everything else is secondary to these stats. Arguably not by much, but again, don't be scared of like just pumping your HP bar and pumping up your armor, because the way that you die is by your HP reaching 0, and the way, obviously only against physical attacks, you reduce that damage is by having a bigger health pool and having a bigger armor amount to reduce that physical damage. And then besides that, obviously, it's 5.6% reduced chance to be crit, which will get you crit immune against level 73 mobs. And then, you know, like things like dodge and parry, you don't really need to worry about them unless you're going for a specific avoidance set, a gear set. So you don't need to worry too much about those. Like even if you wear like a good amount of avoidance gear, you're still going to get hit 2 or 3 times in a row without avoiding a single attack. So you need to prepare for the worst case scenario, if you like. Like I keep saying, you die to the spike damage. You're never gonna you should never die over the course of like 6 seconds and just take little bit of damage, little bit of damage, little bit of damage and die, because that's a healer's catastrophic failure in that sense. Whereas, you know, you want to just, if the boss hits you really hard twice, you need to survive that, because that's a scenario that realistically can happen. Whereas you can't, you know, dodge every other attack indefinitely. Like, that's not realistic. The only way for that to be realistic is if you hit avoidance cap, in which case the boss can't hit you a single time. And that's with insane amounts of gear at very end game on specific encounters, which we're not going to get into. But yeah, expertise is one of the best stats in the game. Obviously, you benefit from the parry portion of it as well as the dodge portion, because you're tanking and you're hitting the boss from the front, and then hit rating as well, so you can actually deal threat. So the damage aren't threat capped, because if the damage need to collectively stop damage for 10 seconds, the whole raid stopping damage for 10 seconds is a huge amount of damage loss. And you can think about that, you know, 100,000 damage or whatever you want it to be as being the warrior's damage, that he's like, he might as well have healed the boss for 100,000, if you see where I'm coming from. And then, like, you know, crit is good for threat, but again, you just basically want to focus on hit and expertise as being your big stat. Threat increases. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much to stats. Basically, it depends on what you're dying from. You know, most of the time it's a healer problem or it's a stamina and armor problem. Just become a meat shield. Like, that's all you need to be. Just be the tankiest mofo you can be. Don't rely on avoidance, because the unlucky scenario will occur where you just don't avoid anything for like 5 seconds, and you need to survive those situations.
What like, is there there will be a max threat rotation, probably based on damage you receive, obviously, but you know, like, what is the either rotation priority system? I don't know how you would want to word it as a warrior, but
it's a rotational priority system. Like, it's all good. Basically, like, shield slam is your biggest threat ability, then it's devastate. Sorry, oh my god, I can't believe I messed up the rotation. Okay, it's shield slam, then revenge, then devastate, and then your second layer is, so they're your globals. Your globals are shield slam number 1, revenge number 2, devastate number 3, and you use your heroic strike if you have the rage to do so, and if your rage doesn't get starved and you can't fulfill your so your global rotation is priority. You always want to shield slam on cooldown. If you can't shield slam on cooldown, either you've done something wrong in spamming too much heroic strike, or you've gone on a avoidance spree and you've not taken any damage because you've been Neo out of the Matrix and you've just not been hit.
Makes
and
sense.
Then if you're out of rage, because shield slam uses a reasonable amount of rage, but Revenge is super cheap on the rage cost. It's 5 rage untalented, and you can talent it down to 2 rage. It's a spell that costs 2 rage, and it does a fairly significant amount of threat. So if you are in a rage-starved scenario where you can't use Shield Slam, you are going to be able to use Revenge first. And threat per rage, Revenge is the number 1 ability.
Do you spend much time rage-starved, or is it genuinely, generally, sorry, can you just sort of spam abilities?
Yeah. A good tank shouldn't be rage-starved often, although a good tank can still be rage-starved. So you want to just focus mostly on your global rotation. So everything has a global, apart from Cleave and Heroic Strike, okay? Every offensive spell. So Shield Slam is number 1, Revenge is number 2, Devastate is number 3. So get familiar with those and just get them into a rotation. You're happily, merrily doing those as a priority of those 3 spells. If your rage bar is, but people always say if the rage bar is 60 or above, Heroic Strike. If it's less, don't use Heroic Strike, because you can't afford to be sat there having just done a Heroic Strike, which costs you 20 rage maybe. You can't afford to be sat there with Shield Slam available, ready for use, but no rage for it. That last Heroic Strike shouldn't have existed. That should have been a white hit, and you should have then done a Shield Slam, because Shield Slam does way more threat than a Heroic Strike. And also a big thing actually is if you're rage starved to the stage that you can't use Shield Block, because then you're susceptible to the crushing blow. So what I tend to do is I just Blood Rage Shield Block. If I rage starve to 0 and I don't have enough rage for Shield Block, you Blood Rage Shield Block. Like the 5% health penalty of using a Blood Rage is nothing compared to the crush that you will take if you don't have a block available and you take the crush.
Yeah,
and then you weave in ideally after shield slam and revenge on cooldown, you use your thunderclap, because that's when your big spells on cooldown. But as long as you've got a threat lead, or if you're in a dire situation where you think you could die at any time and you're really relying on thunderclap, you can thunderclap first ahead of everything, because your survivability, like, you wipe more because the tank dies, not because someone pulled aggro. Like if someone pulls aggro, like maybe one person, 5 people die, whatever. On trash, you can survive. But if the main tank dies and the mobs aren't tauntable, you can't be combat rezzed and taunt it back. You know, it's just not possible.
All right, look. Are you happy? Are you happy with? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the extensive amount of knowledge that you've just shared in a few hours.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Is there anything you want to add before I go and wipe on Morrows for a couple of hours?
No, I'm happy to shout out to everyone watching. Thanks for watching. And, you know, I've got a shameless plug, Warrior TSW on Twitch and YouTube. You know, you can find me there. If you want to, you want your ears to be bleeding with more Warrior information.
Cool. All right, mate. Thank you very much. I am genuinely going to go and now
thank you.
Proceed to wiping Karazhan. So.
Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you.
Catch you in a bit, mate.
Bye.